An immediate provision: how to save the economy while allaying the unreasonable fears of conservatives about alleged disincentives to work during the present Great Depression II of a dozen years. By C.B. Clapper, economist, author of Popular Capitalism, The Way Out, or How Electronic Revenue Credits Can End the Debt Crisis, Open Government, and Restart the Economy. And you can find some more information about me at my website, carlpeterclapper.org. The framework, Part A. The provision of the necessities is shown in Popular Capitalism to be the cost of sovereignty for a political economy. Employment, when available, is a partial and sometimes a full provision of the necessities for the individual employee of one or several employers. Endowments and other unearned income may supplement employment in a partial or full provision of the necessities for the official political economy. Marriage can be a partial and sometimes a full provision of the necessities for the spouse, separately from any income the spouse has in their own name. A child may receive a partial provision of the necessities from their parents, separately from any income they may receive in their own name. The framework, Part B. When the official political economy has not paid the cost of its own sovereignty, alternative political economies will take up the slack. An official political economy can prevent the formation of these alternatives and potentially their own dissolution by making their provision of the necessities unconditional and full. One half measure is to supplement the provision of necessities contingent on employment with unemployment benefits. It is a half measure because not all of the unemployed receive the benefits, and because those benefits usually fall far short of a full provision of the necessities for the ex-employee, their spouse, and their children. Another half measure is the Universal Basic Income, or UBI for short, because basic income is not a full provision of the necessities. It is also a red herring because of its hiding the fact that employment is also a provision of the necessities, and because of its insinuation that the unemployed are less than adequately skilled, rather than simply being excess skilled labor. Existing policy in light of the framework. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, PUA, extends normal unemployment insurance, UI, benefits to ensure that a partial provision of the necessities is made to more of the jobless. The Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, or PUC, program supplements unemployment benefits for both UI and PUA jobless with an additional $600 per week. Thus, the PUC and the first $15 per hour of 40 hours of employment wages together make a $600 weekly partial provision of the necessities to a broad segment of the working citizenry. However, dependents of those citizens have no weekly provision of the necessities through the PUC, and in many cases do not through wage employment when that is available. The stimulus checks are an unconditional, though erratic, partial provision of the necessities of $1,200 for individuals, supplemented with an additional amount for dependents. Though these checks, like the PUC-PUA program, are styled a relief measure, many in the public are urging that they become a monthly $1,200 UBI to stem the tide of increasing homelessness. Since the UBI is notoriously deficient as a provision of the necessities, we can improve it slightly to $300 a week, or roughly $1,290 each month, to each citizen without greatly altering the implementation from what the public intended. And approved. The basis of conservative fears. Conservatives claim that many of our federal citizens need an incentive to work, a claim from which they haughtily exempt themselves. This claim is rooted in the desire for moral superiority based upon employment. That is, loyal employees are deemed good because they work for pay without objection. The employers are deemed good because they offer work for pay. Those who neither work for pay without objection nor offer work for pay are deemed evil. Those deemed good in this employment morality shift the blame for their dishonorable acts. Loyal employees forsake their familial, community, and civic duty for pay, becoming mere serfs. The employers dishonorably exploit their employees by forcing them to forsake their families, their communities, and their towns with long and needlessly inconvenient hours on the job, threatening to replace them with paupers if they fail to comply. We'll just hire somebody else. They'll want your job. The only honorable work. In fact, the only honorable work is that which fulfills familial, community, and civic honor. What makes such work honorable is the institution for which it is performed. The family is the institution for familial honor. Community-operated businesses and farms are the institutions for community honor. This is the local mom and pop shops and factories and the local farms that people patronize primarily because they are part of the community. And to forsake them, to work for somebody outside of them, to work for some interloper coming into their town, some Starbucks or Walmart or what have you, is an act of betrayal. Civic government and companies of all kinds are the institutions for civic honor. So those are the ones that are within the broader city. And of course the civic government. Creative work can bring honor to family, community, and town without any need for pay. Drudgery for family, community, or town requires pay to compensate for the substantial opportunity and operational costs of that drudge work. Pleasurable work for family, community, or town requires a lower pay than for the drudgery work. It's still requested by the family, community, or town, but it does not have to be compensated at the higher work of drudge work, higher wages of drudge work. The stipend enables honorable work. My proposed $1,500 weekly citizen stipend is a full provision of the necessities. It's directed towards citizens, their immediate and cohabitating extended families and their communities, and is unconditional. It enables people to fulfill their duty to family by ensuring their survival while engaging in creative work and assuring that their family has funds to pay them for their work, whether pleasurable or drudge. It enables people to fulfill their duty to community by ensuring their survival without having to work outside the community, and ensuring the survival of community businesses and farms by reducing their labor costs to the cost of working. It enables people to fulfill their civic duty by ensuring their survival during their civic service in government, and ensuring that civic companies have regular investment from local communities with which to pay them wages. Wait, popular capitalism? The astute reader of my seminal work in political economy popular capitalism will notice in the previous slide the distributional scheme of dividing the unconditional provision equally between the individual, the intimate family, the extended family, and the college of extended families, as well as the investment by subscription by each college. Yet even without that distributional scheme, it must be conceded that an undivided $1,500 stipend distributed to each citizen will achieve much the same effect by enabling people to stay local in their choice of work, their choice of patronage, and their choice in investment. In other words, there is a natural tendency towards local boosterism, which the stipend enables and thus unleashes. Allaying the unreasonable conservative fear. Besides enabling honorable work, the stipend presents no disincentive to work per se. Both the citizen engaged in the dishonorable work conservative favor and the citizen not so engaged receive the same stipend, independent of whatever income they may derive from their respective work. There should be no fear for conservatives in converting the PUC and the direct stimulus payments into a $900 weekly citizen stipend, though it would still be a partial provision by itself. The remaining provision of the necessities of $600 per week per family member remains as an incentive towards dishonorable work, which will doubtless please conservatives. The $900 weekly citizen stipend will, nonetheless, enable honorable work at institutions which can meet or exceed the remaining provision of $600 per week per family member. Implementation details. Currently, the best agency to implement a citizen stipend would be the Social Security Administration, the SSA, since they hold citizenship records for their administrative tasks. The SSA also holds direct deposit records for beneficiaries of their programs. The only upgrade needed there is to make weekly rather than monthly payments. Since the funds will come from the Treasury, it is best to keep the stipends separate. That is, to keep the weekly payments separate from the monthly payments. While the $900 weekly citizen stipend is being implemented, the PUA and PUC can and should be continued to maintain moneyed consumer demand during the crisis. It should be emphasized that a full and unconditional provision of the necessities, which can only come from a $1,500 weekly citizen stipend, will reduce wages to the cost of working. The employer no longer has to pay the cost of living, which is a separate category. A $900 weekly citizen stipend is only a first step toward a free market in labor. The end of this lecture. And if you take a look at some of my other videos, I get into some of the, explain why various other conservative fears are unreasonable. That is the notion that, oh, this is going to add to the debt. No, you don't have to add to the debt. You can add to the deficit without adding to the debt. And similar ideas, which I discuss and explain in those videos. You can see one on how to stop the spread of the pandemic, which gets into addressing some of these other conservative fears. But here there's no concern at all whatever about there being a disincentive for work. It's simply an enabling of people to work at honorable work, work that satisfies their duty to their family, to their extended family, to their community or their neighborhood, and to their town. Thank you for listening.